Hello and welcome to the Powerful African Women, the PAW podcast.
The podcast to empower the PAW in you.
I am Aïssatou.
And I am Saran.
And today we're going to discuss with our guest Waraba on her career and her success story.
And on Africanism and the ticking of the biological clock.
We'll present our guest and her choice for the topic.
We'll discuss everything, share experiences, and argue our point of view.
We'll wrap up everything and give our recommendations at the end of the podcast, so stay tuned.
And listen.
Hello everyone, I hope you're all safe physically and mentally with this lockdown. On our side, we are using this extra time home to work on new initiatives.
So the first one is the PAW Book Club. Since we received many book recommendations from our guests as well as listeners' requests, we decided to launch this beautiful initiative. So the first book we'll discuss is Becoming by Michelle Obama. So how is it going to work? Everyone who likes reading and who wants to join is welcome to come. We are going to read the book, and 2 weeks before our meeting, the guests can register for a group call. And the meeting for this first book is going to be on the weekend of the 27th and the 28th of June 2020. And the group call is going to be either Zoom or Hangout or Skype, and we can discuss about the main topics of this book.
Yes, so mark your agendas. And we also wanted to start opening the platform to our network with the first very well written article by one of our PAW network member. Her name is Aisha, and the article is entitled Why You Need to Become an Entrepreneur Even If You Already Have a Job. I would highly recommend this article to anyone looking to kind of have some motivational boost about their entrepreneurial spirit. That's it for our new initiatives for this month. So now we're gonna say hello to our guest. And guest of today, it's time to present yourself by bringing out the PAW in you. So I'm gonna ask you 5 identification questions and you just have to answer them. The first question is, guest of today, what is your PAW identification? That is, how would you like us to call you throughout the episode?
Waraba.
Nice to meet you, Waraba.
Nice to meet
Hi,
both
Waraba.
of you.
Second question, what is your PAW country of identification? That is the country or the countries you feel highly linked to.
The Ivory Coast or Côte d'Ivoire and Gabon.
Okay. Third question, what is your PAW goal? That is, what would you like to achieve?
My PAW goal is to nurture African girls to disrupt the status quo.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's like kind
Amazing.
of a huge goal.
I know.
And an amazing goal and totally a PAW goal. So
Awesome.
Thank you. Fourth question, what is your academic path or career? That is, could you give us like some elements about your background?
My background is in science, engineering, and business, and coding now.
Oh, wow. Okay, we're going to come back to that in the discussion, but wow already. And last question, because PAW is also about having fun. Can you tell us a little bit about your hobbies?
Oh my god, I love hiking, so anything outdoors. I enjoy playing board games and also like tutoring students in math and science, and especially spending quality time with family and friends.
Wow, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for this beautiful, introduction and presentation. So now we're going to play a game. It's called the Fireside Chat. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask you 3 questions and you have to answer really fast. Don't think too much, okay? And I will try not to judge. So the first question, it's 90 Days Fiancé or Love is Blind?
None of the above.
No, you have to pick one.
Love is blind. Love is blind.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so for people who don't know, 90 Days Fiancé, it's a reality TV show that I love.
It's a trashy show.
Everybody will judge me for that. I love trashy shows, it's fine. Anyways, point is, it's a reality TV show around love, same as Love is Blind. So she had to choose Love is Blind. I don't understand why, but anyways. Second question, Simi or Singila?
Singular.
Okay, I could understand. Question 3, Côte d'Ivoire or Colorado?
I love mountains, so I would have to pick Colorado.
Okay, I'm actually surprised. But
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, I feel like that's my dream location, to be honest with you. So Colorado all the way.
Colorado, okay. Question 4. Okay, if you had a choice between no aloco for the rest of your life or having to live with a cat and eat aloco for the rest of your life, what will you choose?
No, Aloko.
Okay, so you definitely just don't like cats. Okay, that's...
I join you on that. I hate cats too.
Okay, that's... You guys are trashy. Okay, the last question is, if you were granted one wish only, what would it be?
Wow, that's very deep.
That's a deep question.
I would want to have luck in everything I do because, when you're lucky, I think luck is very important. When you're lucky, you would excel in everything because at the end of the day, you're going to have all the right opportunities, even if it's for fun, like you're trying to have the next opportunity. You'll be safe in a lot of bad situation too. So I would definitely be lucky.
Okay. That's a good answer. Okay, thank you for the questions and the answers.
Thank you very much, Waraba. I think everyone now knows a little bit more who you are. It's time to start our discussion, which is going to be divided in two parts. First, we're going to talk about your success story, where we're going to ask you a question about your path and your career. And then we're going to move to your choice of social topic, which is for this episode, Africanism and the reign of the biological clock.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Okay, so our guest today is Waraba. Where did I meet her? First of all, I met her 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, because she's my sister. Yes, she's my sister. Okay, so I chose her for this podcast just because she's amazing, in my opinion. She is one of the smartest, one of the most inspiring women ever, although I don't tell her that because she will get all over the place. But I think she's very inspiring and her story, you will learn a lot from her story. She is an engineer and she kind of remodeled herself into learning new skills in order to fit into her current goal. And I think as a new, for this generation, it's very important to be able to redesign and to remodel yourself in order to, be successful, which is something that she showed. So we would like to introduce you, Waraba, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation.
Wow.
Okay, all right. I'm seeing Waraba blushing right now, just to give you an idea, people. Okay, so I'm going to ask you the first question. Could you explain your background in detail from the Waraba born in Ivory Coast to the one that we're talking with today?
Awesome. Thank you, girls, for having me. Very honored to be part of that platform. So I am Waraba and I grew up between Central and West Africa and came to the US about 7-8 years ago to continue my higher education, in the field of science, business, and engineering. So long story, I guess we can go into more details later. While I was back at home, I would say that I was a good student, so school had never been an issue for me. I excelled in almost everything that I did, and it took me a little effort to bring the grades back to my parents. So they were, I think, very happy with that. Because of the culture back at home, and mostly because of my parents, I decided to focus in science just because science back at home meant you had more opportunities. And to me, having opportunities is what mattered, at the end of the day. I didn't want to feel confined, have not many options. On campus, I studied at the University of Arkansas, in Fayetteville. Go Hogs, if any of you are listening. And while there, I served in many organizations, so I was part of the honors student in my department. And I was also I was the president of the African Student Organization, led a lot of volunteering opportunities, and I think I was a well-versed student. One of the reasons why I changed all those majors, just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I like to figure out ways to make improvement, and work to develop processes that could improve quality and productivity. So I started off in science and then felt maybe business would give me more opportunities, and then I still like science a little bit bit more and decided to combine both and do like an engineering studies. So upon graduation, I started my career at FedEx as a solution analyst and joined two different teams. Like the first one was post-sales, strategic and analytics. And I led like several like initiatives with them, strategic projects. And then I got promoted to something completely different, which is working in the structure, engineering and strategic. Just to give you like a little bit background about that, it's just a lot of computer engineers in a like form doing a lot of coding. So that's a bit about myself.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Thank you so much for this great introduction and great background. So second question is, what was your motivation for each of the fields you've studied? You know, like why did you decide to add business and to not stick with like the pure biomedical route? And why did you like do your master's in systems and industrial engineering?
I think the short answer would be I'm a learner, you know, and I feel like I can do anything I set my mind to. But the long answer would probably be opportunities, you know. So when I started off, I liked science, and science was my safe like resort or my last resort, because I knew that I didn't have to learn a lot, like it was already given. But the thing with biomedical is down the line, working in the lab was very like solitary, you know, so like I was always by myself and I missed the interaction with people, and that's why I decided to do something related more about business. And also remember that I was very active on campus, so being active helped me to like discover myself and the things I liked and I didn't like. And I knew that being with people and helping people was something that I was very interested about. So that was the transition between biomedical and then business. So I had 2 degrees, like right from my undergraduate. So upon graduation, it was very hard for me because now I was like, okay, what do I do? Should I continue in biology and probably get a PhD? Because you know, when you work in science, a bachelor degree is pretty much nothing. At the end of the day, you have to have like a PhD or higher to be valued, you know, and to be able to make a living, like a decent living. I worked for 7 months to like 1 year as like lab testing, like scientist. It was good. I learned a lot, but I was still not quite like satisfied, you know, and I was like, okay, I think I can't keep on doing something that maybe I know at the end of the day I'll be miserable. And I was like, okay, what do you like? What don't you like? I'm very like process driven. So I started doing some Excel. It's like,
yes, I do the same thing.
To kind of see where I am and also like take the like risk, you know, I mean, not take the risk, but consider like the risk and what am I willing like to sacrifice, you know? And I was like, okay, so now you're going to change completely. And because I'm both like process improvement and data driven, you know, I always like to like explore like alternate ways of doing things more efficiently. And I love to use like numbers as a reasoning tool. I looked at the engineering courses on campus and felt like industrial engineer was the field for me because you had both combination, that science background, but also that business and interaction part.
Wow. Okay. That was super interesting. You start talking a bit about it, but we know that usually in the US, like students often combine their schoolwork and their extracurricular activities. Could you discuss maybe a little bit more your involvement, maybe any leadership roles or any achievements?
Oh, wow. Oh, I had a lot of them. So I was part of the campus diversity, like on campus, with the Associated Student Government. I was also part of the African Student Organization. You know, like that one was actually something I was very proud of because at the end of my term as like the president, for the first time in the history of the organization, we won like the 2 most important awards, you on campus. So like one of them was like outstanding student organization, and the second one was like best content among all like the other like student organizations. So I was like very pleased with it. But to say like the list, I was even also part of like the grievance committee, like I was one of the people that they always knew that they could choose when they needed something. So volunteering was big part of me and my campus experience.
Okay,
wow,
great.
Thank you.
I mean, that's Waraba. What can you expect? Okay, so my question is: so now that you graduated, you've got a job. So can you talk to us a little bit about your job, what you do at FedEx, and what do you like about it?
What do I like about the job or the company, or both?
Both.
Oh my God, I love everything about the company. They're very like supportive and also like value work-life balance, like in general. So they just don't want you to give out at work. They also want you to give out in the community and try to be like the best that you can. They have something that they called Be Here Now. So it's to be present in every moment that you do, so like be it at home, because sometimes we have, and even me, like I'm guilty of it, like it's hard for us to disconnect from like life and work, family and education. So I like that about the company, and they have amazing benefits too. They do a lot like in the world, like how like coronavirus is happening at the moment, so who do you think is sending masks to all those hospitals like we do? Like who do you think is spending or like sending all those like medicine, like to third world countries? So I just like that aspect of the company, like where they strive to do a lot to meet the goals of the stakeholders, because like you're in business for like a reason, but also that social aspect that people also matter, so they put people first. So for work, so what I do is simulation type of work. So for people who are not necessarily know much about that side of computer engineering, it's just like forecasting, so like doing a lot of like data analytics, to say like, oh, what's the future is going to hold for like our clients, like in what bucket we need to put them. So I do a lot of like segmentation, client segmentations, alignment, and just for us to be able to like support them, because you cannot support like a big a client that would give you like $5 billion with somebody who's going to give you maybe only like 200. Both are valuable, but they would need different type of like experience, so so that's what I do. It's very technical, so it's a lot of like Python, like ab initio, like SQL, like Teradata SQL, very tech savvy, and you have to be technical like at the end of the day. But another thing I like about the company is like we have the possibility, to go up the ladder, like if you want to, because even for me, like I haven't even been there for like 2 or 3 years, but I've already kind of had 3 different positions. So if you're that person who challenges yourself and you aim high, FedEx is the place you can be at. They're very good at it.
You sell it very well.
I mean, at the end of the day, in everything that we choose, sometimes we can lose a part of ourselves because we're so focused about just being, just doing things at work. But you have family still, like you have friends, and both worlds need the best of you. So go FedEx.
Wow. Actually, you learned me something that is really important, is how is it that you really need to love the company you're working with to kind of achieve this balance. I think it's a really important takeaway from that. Okay, so I have another question for you. There is some rumors that you've already done some great achievements at work. So what are some of the achievements you are really proud of at your job until now?
I think a lot of it is being able to see, when I started like a position, something that was not working well, and by doing some like continuous improvement or like doing some automation work, I was able to bring it to the next level. Those are the things that I'm very proud of. Like I've won like 3 awards within FedEx, and all of them were because, like I went the extra step. So I don't want to get too much into details with all the projects that I was doing, but it was mostly because I like enhanced the like customer experience, or maybe something that used to take 2 hours, not even 2 hours because it's corporate, it could take like 7 to like 14 days. I was able to do it like in one day, So they value things like that. Like you have to be somebody who thinks like outside of the box and is willing to just again like question the status quo. You don't have, even if everybody is doing it that way, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily like right. Like you can just be you, all of you, and bring your like advice or whatever you can bring to the table because the table has space for everybody.
So what kind of challenges you kind of encountered being in those kind of positions, especially, I mean, you seem to be already doing so well, but I'm sure you encountered some challenges as a woman, as a Black person maybe. So like how has it been for you?
I think the biggest challenge for me, that was maybe like one of the most important positions I've had since I had left campus, was like I think they call it like the imposters like syndrome, and what that is sometimes you feel like you don't necessarily like belong like in the company. I mean, looking at your result, that you're doing so well, but you still have that feel that, oh my God, like everybody is smarter than I am, like do I even belong there? But you have to like reconcile the fact that you only had 1 year of experience, and those people might have had 10 or like 15 or like 20 years, and those two are not comparable, so you have to accept you for like where you are. I had to accept me for like where I was and be willing to learn like along the way. And I don't necessarily like have to be that person that I want to be like right away, because everything takes time, so that was maybe personally like something that I might have struggled with like in the beginning, just like accepting that I was there, I belonged there and I worked for it and I deserve to be there too. And then like another challenge was the transition between being a student and being a professional. I missed my life in college so much, just because like the like routine of being at work, you're doing the same, not that you're doing necessarily the same thing every single day, but you wake up, you go to work, and you come back at home and like repeat. And then I had also moved that to another city, so just trying to like acclimate myself with my new like surroundings, and being there now was kind of hard too.
That's really important. Yeah, I actually have a question that I'd like to ask you. It's coming from our PAW network, so it's one of our listeners who wanted to ask you, have you benefited from being Black or a woman during your career?
I would say no. I don't think, or if I were, like, I was never aware of it, like, personally, just because I gave it my, like, whole at the end of the day. So everything that I earned by the grace of God was something that I thought that I had worked for. Either you can do the job or you cannot do the job,
Yeah.
And I think that's what they value. If you can do the job, yes. But if you cannot do it, there's not much that goes in there. But in a lot of my classes, I was definitely like a minor. Even now, like, I'm maybe like the only woman. We're only 2 women in my teams, So,
and I imagine you are the only Black too.
Yes, yeah. Like you can be like in a room of like 100 people, you might be the only Black person. So you just have to I just had to learn to empower myself and know that I belong there and I worked for it, and I also have something to bring to the table.
So now, can you maybe give us, some tips about what kind of skills you think is required for your position, or like to be successful basically in your position?
Yeah, I think a lot of people like focus about just like the technical skills, like you have to be this, you have to have all the technical knowledge to be able to do the job. But something that I also like to tell people who are looking for new opportunities is don't forget yourself, like don't aim so high that you're forgetting who you are, or you're trying to play like somebody somebody else's scene. So be all of you, value a lot of the like emotional like intelligence too, you know, so they have to like you as a person, but you also have to like them as a person. So if we can tend to do conversation rather than saying, oh, I do this, I can do that, I can do this. Yes, you can do all of that, but I have to work with you. Do I like you as a person? So I think people should focus about emotional intelligence, you know, and just being like human, like believe in humanity, but also be excellent in everything that you do. I didn't say to be perfect. I say to be excellent, because excellence means that to me that you are better than what you were yesterday. But perfection sometimes even become like, you know, like a hypocrite at the end of the day, because you're faking yourself and then
like you just aim to be a better person and like to always improve yourself if there is a window for improvement.
But perfection is actually really dangerous because it doesn't allow you to make mistakes, but mistakes can be sometimes good. Why being excellent is better, because as you say, it's just be better as you was yesterday. So yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and then maybe something else is also ask, you know, like be able to like ask for help too. Like don't underestimate your network, because maybe that person that you're asking might not necessarily like give you like the right advice, but might know somebody that could. And aim high.
Yeah. So wow, that's really, really important takeouts, and we're actually gonna keep going with that vibe. What are the key takeouts you would give to young PAW, young powerful African women who want to succeed?
Do something your future self would thank you for. Advice for somebody that was very deep to me. So yeah, do something your future self would thank you for.
Wow.
You know, I'm actually excited about it because that has been like my WhatsApp like quote for the past maybe year or two. So I'm like, oh, maybe she read it and she got inspired. You're welcome.
And then also like no excuses. Yes, we do not choose the cards that we are like handled like in life, but we definitely choose how to play them. Either it's like physical or like emotionally, you know, so do not just build up obstacles in your imagination. I know I was guilty of that many times. It's like if you have a project, just do it, and whatever happens would happen. Like you'll be fine at the end of the day, because at the end of the day it can only get better to me. And then also don't be afraid to like grow, because like growth lies like outside of your comfort zone. Like if you find yourself like afraid of challenges, it means that you're stuck, you know. And try to put yourself into that growth like mindset so that you can find new opportunities and become like a better person, like a better self.
Yeah, I agree on that statement. I mean, even me, I'm the type of person I really like to step out of the comfort zone. And every time that I do something that is way out of my comfort zone, I just ask myself, like, why am I doing that from, you know, to myself? But then after you do that, you just feel so happy and like you feel so accomplished, you know? Yeah, you feel really accomplished. So it's really, like you said, that's a value. I think that's most of the time the advice that I give to everyone. Like just...
Yeah.
It's kind of the best way to also learn more about yourself, because you put yourself in a condition that you are not used to.
I agree. And then another one would be to believe in humanity and be human. What I mean by that, it's sometimes at the end of the table, you know, you only want to get, but you forget that you can also offer. It doesn't necessarily have to be like financial, like even your time. If you know that somebody is struggling in math, like be of service to others. I believe in that too. Like a smile goes a long way. You don't even understand how many times just smiling at people helped me. Like even when I was applying to jobs like within like FedEx, and then some people knew that I had applied, and they're like, oh, still, because usually it takes like 1 or 2 days or 3 days to hear something. I already knew that I had gotten the job, but they haven't heard anything official. And so many people like approach me at work and say like, hey, like, do you need help? Because I can help you if you want. Just ask me. But they didn't know me from Adam or Eve, but just because I was pleasant with them, they just liked me as a person, you know. So that's very important too. Yeah, so that's it.
Wow, thank you. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, that was great.
Thank you, Waraba. So I think this was a very interesting like interview, because your path is so interesting and you're excellent. I mean, really, I mean, you're good. that's really important to kind of show that to people, is that be your best selves, and all the takeouts you've done are really, really important.
I agree.
So now we're going to move to the second part of the discussion. We're going to talk about the topic you've chosen, that is Africanism and the reign of the biological clock. That's a huge topic, very interesting.
I'm very excited to talk about it. Yes.
I am too.
We are definitely. So the first question, to kind of put us in the vibes, could you explain why this topic? Like, why did you choose this topic?
I think the topic says it all. Like, it's a very prevalent issue in the African culture. Like, a lot of girls, especially in West Africa, feel pressure to get an education and get married right away, and emphasizing the fact that you're not even supposed to have a boyfriend, but straight after college you're supposed to get married and afterwards have a child, but they forget that there's so many other issues not necessarily even issues. Is it something that you would even want to do? What do you want at the end of the day? It does not necessarily matter for them. It's just a cultural thing, and that's why I felt like it could be a good topic for a PAW girl.
Yes. Why do you think our African education and our African family kind of shape our vision of the biological clock?
I think that being an African woman especially comes with a baggage, and a lot of prerequisites. So you're supposed to get an education, be the best that you can be, don't talk too loud, don't talk too much, don't be this, don't be that. Sometimes, not for every family, but in a lot of them. At the end of the day, after you get your education, they expect you to get married and bear a child without even consulting you. And I think that's just a fact. Just because you're African, you're supposed to do all of that, all of the above, and it's the expectation. So you don't necessarily have a say in it. You know what I mean? And so it's a lot of pressure for women to bear children. And sometimes we don't even know if that person can bear one,
Yes.
Is it a medical issue the person has? Does she want to do it? What's going on in her life? We tend to just appropriate ourselves, expect, just say it and you have to do it and you have no other option to do it, and not necessarily empathize with people, their emotions and what they're dealing through at the moment in their lives.
I agree.
I also think that the reason why we have so much pressure is coming from, from our parents' point of view. They finish with you. I mean, they've checked their good parent things and finish the contract once you're married and have children, because from that point you would have accomplished everything they were expecting and the society was expecting them to pass on to you. I don't know how to explain, but it's really about this checklist that they need you to finish, and that's why it's so important that you do everything. The sooner you do it, the better they feel,
I agree, but also the world that they lived then is not the world that we're living now. Globalization is a thing, then I don't want to say that things were simpler, but not many people necessarily aspired to be the next president of the United States, because as a woman you were supposed to think to disrupt the status quo, but not too much. But now there's no limitations, and I think that's where culture, what's happening nowadays, that's where it conflicts, because we don't necessarily agree. Things are changing. Things that were used to be 20 years ago are not now.
Yeah, I agree. And then I think another thing too is women are different, right? You cannot impose the same list, or like we said before, the same checklist for every woman. Again, coming back to the topic of the biological clock. Me, I want to have if I could bear a child now, I would be bearing a child now, but that doesn't mean that another woman will want to do the same thing. So it's also just understanding that we want to, we have certain things that we want to do at a certain time, and sometimes the pressure of our parents make us miss some steps, and that at the end of the day we might regret it,
or even to add to your point, Sarah, I think you brought a good point when you say that if you could bear a child now, you would do that. I think for us as African, they don't even imagine a woman, an independent woman bearing a child if she's not married. That's also a biological clock. What do you necessarily have to wait? If you want it, you can do it. It doesn't mean that you'll be like a bad mom.
Yeah. But what you're saying is really important about if you wanted to do it today, there are many solutions for you to do it today, And it actually brings out a question that one of our listeners asked. So she's a woman, right? Mm-hmm. And she ultimately wants to be a mother more than wanted to be married. So her ultimate goal is really just to be a mother. And she heard of something called co-parenting, which consists in raising a child with another person. That other person, in her case, she wants it to be a man, to have this kind of male figure. But that man doesn't need to be her husband, not even her partner, or she doesn't have to be in any kind of romantic relationship with him, just someone who wants to raise the children with you, So
question. So
yeah,
is the child yours? Like both of the
parents? It's yours.
Yeah.
So you decided to raise them together, but you don't need to
like
be
she doesn't
in love.
want the title.
Not even she doesn't need to be in love with the guy. She just that guy wants to have a children and she wants to have a child, and they decided to have the child together, right? It's co-parenting, really. So that's what you can even adopt that children or whatever, but it's just the parenting thing isn't linked to being a wife and a husband or being in love with someone else. You just want to have the role and share it to raise that child, right? So her question for us was that this is really so different from the traditional image of the family we have, right, in our African societies, most than in the other. And her question is, to what extent, in our opinion, could this model work in our African family where the traditional model is highly, highly predominant?
I would say that, like Waraba said, you really have to be careful, first of all, because it's also you bringing a child, right? So your emotional, distance, you want to make sure that a child could really live and grow up in that without feeling some type of way. Because that's just in general. Like, it doesn't apply to the African society, it just applies in general. Because even that co-parenting thing, I heard about it, but it's still a very taboo subject because just to raise a child is already hard. Some women rather just raise it alone than raising it with another person. You know what I mean? You have to make sure that, once you make that type of choice, you guys are both, understanding that you are raising the child, so you need to put the right amount of emotions and also take care of some issues outside of the sides of the child.
And it also takes a village to raise a child. So it's not only two people who are going to raise the child, you need a village. You have to be compatible. Those two families have to be compatible, because either you accept it or not. Guess what? Your parents or that child's grandparents, So you have to make sure that child would grow up in a right environment, because it's not just you. I think that's what people miss sometimes in our generation, because we tend to focus about ourselves so much. It's what we want, and we forget the bigger picture. That child is going to have to face the world. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but you won't be 24/7 with that person. Is he ready to face it? What values are you going to incorporate? I think it's doable, but it's very tactful. You have to be very tactful with it.
And I actually agree with you on the fact that I think it's even more challenging in our African societies, where you cannot raise a children without first the grandparents, but also the aunts, the uncles, and all your extended family.
I'm telling you.
You cannot raise the children with just mom and dad back home. It's impossible,
It's a package.
Exactly. That's why in our African society, it's going to be twice as hard. And the second thing I would like to say is that imagine you start having an actual relationship with someone else, right? With another guy. How are you going to explain that? And how are you going to balance now the co-parenting with 3 person? Because if you're involved in an actual relationship with someone, he's going to want to raise your children also. So I think it's something you should really, really think about. If you have someone that you really like enough to raise the children together, maybe you actually like him more, and you should actually construct something more traditional.
Yeah, definitely. And
let's ask now, because biological clock is actually a real thing, we can say, okay, enough, maybe people are exaggerating a bit with the pressure in the African education and the African society, but it's actually a real deal. You cannot have a children when you're in your 60s 60s, you know, time is actually ticking. So like, how do you feel about taking your time to make the decision of having a children? And do you think that you actually have a choice about that, or is it just, I mean, your body?
And maybe let's refocus that, also saying that because sometimes we want to take the time because we want to prioritize our career, right? So like, maybe what do you think about like making that choice?
Oh yes, because really important, just wanted to add, we did some research with Saran, and actually we realized that the concept of the biological clock was invented by men.
Oh, it's a myth.
Exactly, it's kind of a myth. It's not actually totally real, you know, like it's not that because you didn't have your children when you were in your 20s, you won't have any child. How is this pressure kind of applying to you and maybe your career and how you're building your future?
To be honest with you, like I really don't feel pressured in any shape and form, you know. I feel like once that time comes, it would happen, be it at 25 or be it at 30. So I don't have that like pressure that I put on myself like necessarily, which I'm glad that I don't, because again, like a lot of us plan to get married before by 25. So many girls have so many checklists, and then when it doesn't come, you have a lot of frustration. So I don't want to frustrate myself, so I don't necessarily put things that I cannot control on my checklist. If it happens, it would happen.
And if it doesn't, when you are 25, for instance?
Like, I think that I'll be fine. Like, I want to believe that I will be fine, you know, because it's the will of God. And if it's my own decision too, that's okay by me. Like, I really don't feel, like, I really honestly don't feel pressured to have a child. I think it would be like a beautiful thing, but can I live without? Sometimes, like, someone would always say, like, don't say that. So I'm knocking on wood. I could be fine either way, I believe. Like, I really could, I think. Like, but I'm not sure, you know? But the way I am at the moment, I don't feel any form of pressure from anybody, because it's a decision, and that's very important. Like, it's a lifetime decision.
I think it's very important once you know that that's what you want to do. I think, like, at the end of the day, once you know whatever you want, it's fine, you know? I like to take my case, because whenever you said that girl who wanted to get married at 25, that was me.
I was
you know?
And I see you.
No, seriously. And okay, like, it's no big deal, because again, that means that it's not my time, you know.
The clock is ticking.
I had that list that I wanted to be this, and I think it's that biological topic. Like, it touches me very personally, because I think my clock is ticking, and it's just because that's my own, you know, like,
aspiration for you.
Like, you don't exactly. Like, it doesn't mean that my aspiration has to be the same for every woman. And once you understand that, will make kind of the pressure go away a little bit.
I'm actually more like you, Saran. I'm kind of pressured about the biological clock. First, because I'm starting to have like people around me, friends who are getting married and having children. So you're like,
that's
okay,
a good
they're
point.
moving on with their life, and I'm not there yet. And the second thing is that I always been super scared about everything that is like infertility, because you talked about it in the beginning, but it's really like, what if I cannot have children? And I actually want to bear my children, you know, so I'm kind of stressed about that. So I've actually went to the OBGYN, right? And she made me do like all these exams, because like I've heard story of, for instance, you have like, I'm reading Becoming by Michelle Obama, and in the book she said like the biological clock is real because egg production is limited. And I realized that I was 34 and 35 and I had to do an IVF. So she had both her children using an IVF. The same thing, I heard the story of like Gabrielle Union, right? She had to use a surrogate mother to bear Kavya James. And when I read her story, I started freaking out, because she said, you know, I got my period quite late, and when I've got them, they were really painful and they were really irregular, you know. I got the same thing. So I was really freaking out. And she said the issue I had is that no doctor was able to tell me that I had a medical condition behind and I need to do some stuff. And it was too late. When I wanted to have children, it was too late. So when I heard that, I went to the OBGYN, I did all the tests, and actually there is this kind of blood test where they tell you how old are your eggs. And just now that I know, like I've did the test and I know it, I just feel a bit relieved because I wasn't sure about something. I feel really pressured, but now I know that I have the choice. I can wait a little bit. I'd rather be safe than sorry. So I felt that pressure, and now I feel it a little less because I know I have other options.
Definitely.
But I think it's really, really a topic, and it's really important, like...
No, again, I think it's very personal.
Yeah.
It's ultimately personal, like...
But it's hard. Like, the choice is hard for a lot of people.
Yeah, so I mean, that was a good way, to transition kind of to our second subtopic, which is, balancing the above. Meaning, can we really have it all? Especially us as African women, we want the new African woman, we want to have a successful career. We also want to have like a successful, personal life, meaning probably getting married for the women who want to get married and bear children. Like, how do you think is the biological clock tied to your career, or like to find the right person?
Yeah.
I think know yourself. If you know yourself, you will know either or not you want a child. And if you do want to have a child, you would have it when you feel it's good, like a good time for you. So just know yourself. When it comes to like a career, it's complicated in the sense that if you know it's being a woman, it's a liability in the workspace, because either you say it or not, they know that you're a woman, so you probably want children, which means that you would probably take maternity leave for 4 months or more, and you're going to have a lot of circumstances, like life happens. So it means that when you'll be working, some people, like your school, your children's school are going to call you and say, hey, you need to come now. Are you going to leave work and go there? So it's a liability. That's why it's very important to find a company that values, if that's the route you want to go, that values both your work-life balance, so that you can give the best of you in both worlds. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I read an article, again, the same article that was saying that it was a myth, like created by men. It's also the fact that ability for women, especially as like when they evolve, they get higher positions, in the career, they have a lower probability of getting married compared to men.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of also hard, like for women to kind of try to evolve as much as they wish, just because you always keep in the back of your mind, maybe if I choose this route, I'm probably not going to find a husband. Or if I have a husband, I'll have to kind of give up some, like some of your goals just to be able to fit in.
I think we need to re-educate people. A man does not have to choose either he wants to have a family or he wants to be successful like in his career. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I meant, right?
Yeah, so it's just, I think it's possible, because even when you look at politicians, I don't know if you guys read that article, when it came to COVID-19 cases, those people say that leaders in almost every country who had a female president, the cases of COVID-19 were so much lower because women are caretakers, or like caregivers. They give care, so they're very like smart about it. Yeah.
What I meant is just that that's where sometimes the pressure comes from of not going too far in your career. It's just in the fact that the women who want to have that personal aspect of their life, they sometimes find themselves. And there's some, there are some like amazing cases again where, you have it all, you're a successful woman,
right,
president of what company, and then you still have a personal life. But for many of us, it's not as easy as it seems.
It is not.
So it's, yeah, that's what I meant.
I just think that, so the first thing I wanted to say just a little bit earlier about what's important also about the biological clock, we talked about like getting married and all of that. I just wanted to add quickly that the biological clock is also linked, like if you make the choice of your career, it also means that you're going to maybe sacrifice your dating life.
Exactly.
And so when you decided to delay your dating life so that you can have your career, it's eventually going to delay your ability to have children, because if you want to have children, if you want to get married and find the right guy, everything is going to be delayed because of that. So I think it's something that you need to take into account. But the second thing, and that's the weird thing, I cannot do not have an example of a woman that have it all. But the good thing would be that as a woman, like men, because men, why can they succeed in their career even if they have children? It's because they have a good support system that is the wife, you know. But if as a wife you're able to have a good support system, so maybe a husband, but even if you don't have a husband and have your children, you can have your family, you can have friends, you can have like another kind of support system that can help you succeed in your career and in raising your children. So I think that's really important to add.
I agree.
No, I agree. I do agree, especially on that, having a good support system.
It's
that
important.
Is something that, it's really important.
Like even small comments, you know, like at work, like I've seen it, like some women, they would have to go home more often because their kids are sick, and then somebody is going to make like a smart comment to say like, oh, her again, you know, does she have a choice? She does not have a choice.
Yeah, but that's the issue. It shouldn't be an issue, actually.
Exactly.
But with that too, it's like we just have to disrupt the status quo, because if you, Sarah, or like if you, Aissatou, can become that example for younger generation, they would see you as an example and strive to be that person too. So I think that we can have it all, but it would come at the cost. Some things it can be your sleep, it could be
again, there are some amazing cases. Like there was this woman that I with my reality TV show, you know, hobby that I love to watch.
Oh my God.
You know, there's this woman, like she has it all. She's a successful entertainer. She has like 4 kids, you know, and she really does. She has a way to balance it in the right way, just because she has a supportive husband, you know. She has a supportive husband. She has a supportive like family who, you know, help her whenever
they
she's
believe
in
in
town.
her dreams.
Exactly, they believe in her dreams. But
That's
how
the key.
many women that we see, like I've read so many articles, how many women, there's that one woman, she was in a law firm, like really powerful in her law firm, but she had to step out and, you know, work government jobs just so that she can be more present for her personal family. So again, like we have to also be realistic again. We can educate just as a woman, as your emotional self, like you feel some type of guilt.
I think we can kind of conclude, and each of us are gonna give like the key takeouts on this talk. So I'm gonna like start quickly, but I think the main thing to take out from this discussion about the biological clock, the most important thing is that it's really personal. It really depends on you. Everyone needs to evaluate what is more important. In my case, it's to have a children. It's to be a mother. It's what's most important for me than being like a wife in a. So if that is the most important thing you want, and you also want to move forward in your career, you need to find a way to balance it, either by, I don't know, having children whenever you feel that your biological clock is ticking and you want to have them tomorrow, or I don't know, make some sacrifice, you know. Everyone needs to adjust depending on what they want, and I think that's the most important thing.
Me, I would say the most important thing to me is to be your full self. Either you want a child or not. If that's what you want, just be you, do you, and be amazing.
Yeah, I think for me, just the key takeout is, again, be yourself, like know what you want. Again, your way of thinking is not necessarily the same way that another woman is taking. Know yourself and make the right choices based on yourself, not based on people pressuring you, because you might regret later, like you guys both said. So
the last one that I want to add is, know that even though the clock is ticking, nobody's going to raise your children but you. So just make sure that you make the right decision.
That's actually the best one. That's the best way of ending this. That's true.
Thank you. I think we kind of sum it up. So now we're actually gonna quickly switch to the recommendation quickly, and then that will be it for our podcast. So, guest of today, Waraba, I'm gonna let you start with the recommendation you'd like to share to our PAW network.
I have a book recommendation today, and the title is Make Your Bed. So to sum it up, the book is talking about how if you want to change the world, you have to make your bed. That's those little things that really can make you excel, and become a better person. And also you might even be able to be a positive difference maker in the world. So make your bed each morning.
Good advice. Okay.
So for me, my recommendation for this podcast or for our listeners is called Yoga with Adrian. It's a YouTube channel. I like it because it has this specific kind of challenge. It's called 30-day challenge, where you do like a little bit of yoga every day. And I'm a big fan of yoga, thanks to Waraba here, who was the one pressuring me to do it while I was at her place, and I actually don't regret it. So yeah, like go there every day. She kind of just does 30 minutes yoga per average, and it's pretty fun. Like, it's pretty easy. You do when you wake up. I'd like to do it when I wake up, because it gives me kind of a little bit of energy to start my day, and it's really fun. So just go and then move your body.
Okay, so my recommendation, for once I don't have a book because I'm reading Becoming, for the book club, but I have a lot of other type of recommendation. I have time, people, thanks to the lockdown. So first of all, I have 2 IG accounts that I will recommend. The first one is for travel addicts. I would recommend the IG of May West. She's traveled to a lot of countries, and she's created a website called Brock and Abroad. So basically it gives you some tips to travel, but really like cheap, which is good. The second thing is a Niger account about reading books. It's called Well-Read Black Girls, and it's really interesting. It's what inspired actually the book club. My second 2 recommendation, it's quick, people. The first one is The Story of God on Netflix. It's with Morgan Freeman, and it's actually about spirituality. So he's asking a lot of people with different faith and a lot of leaders with different faith, their conception on religion and on God and on spirituality. So to everyone who's interested about those kind of stuff, I would highly recommend. And another Netflix recommendation is, actually I don't recommend like because of the story and all, but just because it's a South African show. It's called Blood and Water. It's about a high school girl whose sister has disappeared, was abducted actually when she was a baby, and she's trying to solve the mystery. It's really well done actually, and it shows a different image of Africa, and you can also hear very, very good South African music, which I love, so I recommend. And my last recommendation is an app called Duolingo. So it helps you to learn new language, and what I will highly recommend is that you can learn Swahili and Arabic, which is useful.
It sounds great. I'll check them out.
Yeah, I definitely want to look at Blood and Water.
Yeah, I mean, the story isn't amazing, but it's just that, it's kind of Gossip Girl mixed with those kind of show, like Elite is really high school drama, but it's in South Africa, and that's really good. Like, it's rich people in South Africa, which is good to watch.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
So thank you very much, Waraba, for accepting to be our guest and for being the representative today for me of excellency.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, you're welcome, really. So thank you very much for listening. Follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You just have to type Powerful African Women.
So you can also check out our website at www.powerfulafricanwomen.wordpress.com, and you can sign up for our PAW mentoring program there. You can read our episodes, transcripts, read the PAW articles, and show us some love.
Yes, and give us your opinion, your suggestion, your comment. Rate our articles and share as much as possible to strengthen the PAW network.
Also, you can reach out to us through email at powerfulafricanwomen@gmail.com. You can give us your opinion, ask us questions, send us some love, everything you want, we take it.
And don't forget to bring out the PAW in you.